What's up, everybody? Nick Whalen, John McKechnie, back with you. We are on to week 5 of the NFL season, giving you our best bets for the weekend ahead. John, as always, you got 3 games. I got 3 games. We can pick whatever we want. We can pick totals. We can pick sides. We can pick team totals. It's got to be within reason, of course. But we each have our 3 best bets that we'll start with. We'll move on to a little bit of futures talk. Want to talk some Puka Nacua with you. We'll talk about which games we want no part of betting this week. Talk some Survivor, which teams we're leaning on heading into week 5. We'll give you some props. We'll give you some parlays. We'll give you a teaser, and we will give you our locks of the week as we do every week. John, I will let you lead us off. Where do you want to go first?
We're going out to the Pacific Northwest, my good friend. I'm looking at that Tampa Bay Seattle game, and I'm seeing that Tampa is a 3.5 point underdog. At some shops, it's 3. I love the 3.5, and the 3.5 I think is going to be very important. I think coming out of week 4, I think we can kind of point to this Tampa Bay team as being one of the most notably banged up in the league. I think other than like San Francisco and Baltimore, like Tampa Bay is kind of right there as far as just kind of a bloody looking injury report as far as they're concerned. You know, Mike Evans is still going to be out. We get the Bucky Irving injury as well. So some shuffling there, but I'm stopping a little bit short on this Seattle hype. I'm kind of seeing a lot of enthusiasm about this Seahawks team. And, you know, I think it stands to reason, like Mike McDonald, his second year in Baltimore is when the defense really kind of took off. And you can draw up similar parallels to what's going on in Seattle right now. And obviously, if Tampa Bay is going to be shorthanded, then that certainly helps that Seattle defense. But I still think that this Tampa Bay team is very much for real. And I think as long as Baker Mayfield is at the helm, they're going to be a dangerous team. Baker has been awesome as an underdog, especially since joining the Buccaneers. He's 15-8 against the spread as an underdog since becoming a Buck. I think that the 3.5 there, very friendly number for our purposes. Tampa just needs to keep that into a field goal. I wouldn't be stunned if Tampa Bay goes in there and gets the win outright. But right now, taking the cushion, 3.5 on Tampa Bay.
I'm with you on the hook being very important here. Could absolutely see this being a 3-point game. Would not surprise me if Tampa Bay won outright. I think if the Buccaneers have taught us anything already this season, it's that these games are going to come down to the final possession or two. I mean, almost did it again last week against Philadelphia. They're down, 3 scores early in that game. Baker once again rallies them back. They're hitting big plays down the field. Like, some of the advanced numbers aren't very friendly on Mayfield this season, which if you watch the games, I think is pretty understandable. But there's something like unquantifiable going on when we hit the fourth quarter, when there's like 6 minutes on the clock. Like, is there a more feared quarterback right now, maybe other than Josh Allen, who you say, all right, it's a tie game or we're up a field goal, they have the ball. Who do you not want marching down on you? I mean, this is what the Buccaneers have done every single week. So even if this is a spot where Seattle does jump out to a lead, if Sam Darnold continues to play well, I think you just expect the Buccaneers to come back at this point. I also like the under on this game. It's not one of my official plays. I would lean under 44.5. I don't think either team is going to be able to run the ball very effectively. I think it could be a decent spot for Rachaad White, assuming he's stepping in for Bucky Irving. Seattle, number 1 in the NFL in terms of receiving yards, receptions allowed to the running back position. So if you do need to make that switch in fantasy, I actually think Rachaad White is a pretty reasonable RB2 this week. I do have a couple notes, by the way, on Sam Darnold. I knew he was playing well. I didn't know he was playing this well. Number 2 graded quarterback in PFF, number 5 in EPA, number 3 in success rate, number 1 in the NFL in completion percentage over expected, second only behind Justin Herbert in terms of avoiding turnover-worthy plays. So we've certainly seen more of Minnesota Sam Darnold than Carolina or New York Jets Sam Darnold.
That's right. Yeah, a couple of guys who kind of cut their teeth in Carolina, reached their rock bottoms, and have come out better for it on the other side. So always fascinating when these two square off. But give me Baker right now.
One more note on that game, by the way. We are getting the creamsicle Buccaneers uniforms against the Seattle Throwbacks this weekend. So just something to keep an eye on. I think that cancels out. I mean, these are both fantastic uniforms, so maybe not an advantage one way or the other, but just be prepared for what your eyes are going to see in a good way. All right, my first game, John, I am taking us on Monday night, going up against Game 2 of the NLDS, the Milwaukee Brewers versus to be announced on Monday in Duval. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-point dogs at home to the Kansas City Chiefs. we're taking the Chiefs here. I like Kansas City to win this game fairly comfortably. I'm not saying Jacksonville just gets steamrolled here. For one, and this doesn't really affect the handicap, but it's worth noting, the Jaguars have not beat the Chiefs straight up since 2009. That was when Torrey Holt was still a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars, just to give some context. That was 16 years ago. A lot of talk, of course, about the Jags defense, and it's been maybe the most improved unit in the NFL year over year. I mean, it's not like they were just like an okay defense. They were a truly terrible defense last season, and now they're top 5 by a lot of metrics. One, I don't think Trayvon Walker's playing. If he is playing, he's going to have a club on his arm. He underwent wrist surgery like 24 hours ago, and they're still not ruling him out. Either way, I'd be surprised if he's out there. Jags have also been unbelievably good at forcing turnovers. I mean, the teal curtain, it's fully back. At least 3 turnovers in every game so far, 13 forced on the season. I will remind you again that this team forced 9 turnovers all of last year. I just don't think you can count on that going up against Patrick Mahomes. Maybe they continue to get some fumble luck, but Mahomes isn't going to throw 2 or 3 picks in this game. And I have a lot of questions about the Jags offense. I know the offensive line is playing probably a little bit above its level right now. The running game has been consistent. ETN, breaks off that 47-yarder last week to really give them a cushion against San Francisco. But I think KC is playing really, really well defensively. Whatever happened in week 1 against the Chargers in Sao Paulo, they've looked a lot better to me these last 3 weeks. And if the Jags are going to win this game outright, it's going to be on the arm of Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that's a good thing. I think that Lawrence has been fine. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been a disaster, but I still think the Jags are kind of winning in spite of him. They haven't gotten really any single receiver going through these first 4 weeks. I don't think De'Ami Brown is going to be out there. Travis Hunter, Parker Washington, these guys are just bit players at this point. Trevor Lawrence, by the way, 25th among starting quarterbacks in turnover-worthy plays. So I think he should probably have more than 4 interceptions right now. I think the Chiefs go into Jacksonville. They win this game by a touchdown. Give me KC -3.
Yeah, I think I like that call. I think we're about to see Kansas City kind of start to lift off from here as they get a little bit healthier. We're not too far off from Rashee Rice getting back in the fold.
Oh, yeah.
I think we saw the huge impact of Xavier Worthy last year. I think Tyquan Thornton has been like a really nice kind of placeholder for them offensively, and I think dating back to like the second half of that game against the Giants on Sunday Night Football, like Mahomes has looked like Mahomes the last 6 quarters or so. That's bad news for this Jaguars team.
And I know it was the Ravens last week, and you could speak to this better than anybody, unfortunately, John. But that was the first time in a really long time where I felt like things came easy offensively for the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And again, you're going up against a better defense this week. I'm not just saying the Chiefs are back because they rolled over that beat up Ravens defense, but I think they have turned a corner. I think they're really going to hit the gas when Rashee Rice is back in a few weeks. All right, John, no more Jags talk for now. Where do you want to take us next?
I want to take us to the Meadowlands. We've got the Jets and the Cowboys. Before I dive in, I do like to or give you a shout, saying it as your like signpost for the Jags in 2009, Torrey Holt. It's like, oh yeah, Torrey. Now I know 2009 Jaguars. Torrey Holt, of course. But anyway, so we got this game, Jets, Cowboys, over under sitting at 47.5. We know the Cowboys defense is bad, right? I mean, that's just sort of like a running joke that this entire season. I mean, Russell Wilson threw for 1 million yards against them. We saw the Cowboys triumphantly tie the Packers last week at 40 apiece in that game. So the Cowboys very, very gettable on defense. And I think where I kind of draw some interest here is I wonder if the books are giving this Jets defense a little bit more credit than it's deserving of right now, because obviously the Jets defense, especially 2 years ago, was incredible. When they had to kind of make it work without Aaron Rodgers, they were okay last year. They still have guys everywhere, but I don't think that this unit has really come together cohesively just yet. I mean, I thought that Miami was getting what they needed to, even without Tyreek Hill last week for the most part. So I think this is a pretty gettable Jets defense. So I think that there's going to be points aplenty in this one coming from both sides. And I just think that we're going to have a bit of a track meet there. I think that both the passing games are going to be in good shape. This is going to be one of the easier setups all season for Justin Fields to get it done through the air. I think that, he can obviously make some plays with his legs, as we saw last week in Miami as well. So love that setup. I know CeeDee Lamb's not there for the Cowboys right now. It didn't really seem to matter too much on the scoreboard last week for the Cowboys. Pickens, Ferguson, Turpin, Tolbert, there's enough guys there, and they're actually running the ball pretty well with Javonte Williams. So defense optional in this game. Give me the over 47.5.
I like it. I like it. And your note on the Cowboys running game, I think, is something that's gone a little bit undercovered. Like I think most people just blindly assume this would be, another bottom 5 rushing attack, kind of like it was last year. I mean, consistently, they're moving the ball and everybody on the ground. And Javonte Williams has been a revelation in fantasy. I'm going to give you the top 5 teams in terms of offensive success rate so far this season, John. Number 1, the Indianapolis Colts. Number 2, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 3, the Buffalo Bills. Number 4, the Detroit Lions. Number 5, the New York Jets. The New York Jets, number 5 in success rate. The EPA numbers do not match up whatsoever because the Jets have trouble finishing drives. They fumble at the goal line. They commit a ton of penalties. This could be a spot where the Jets could win outright, frankly. I mean, there's a reason this is only 2.5, with the Jets sitting at 0-4. I heard somebody say the other day, like, Jets could be 4-0. And you're like, maybe. It's not that crazy. They should probably be 2-2 if we're being realistic. So, yeah, everything you said, I think checks out. I think we see points on both sides. Dak Prescott, by the way, playing at an MVP level so far this season. So I think both teams have their way offensively. John, I mentioned that Indianapolis Colts team, number 1 in success rate. They've been one of the best offenses across the board this season. Give me the Colts to cover the 6.5 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders this week. It's going to be a really popular play. That does scare me. The public continues to get crushed. I think, 6 of the 8 most popular circa picks went down again in week 4. It feels like that's just every week now. But this is one that I can't pass up. I just think the Colts are a significantly better operation right now. I think the offensive numbers are real. I think they're starting to feel kind of like this year's version of last year's Vikings, where it took a while to buy in. You're like, all right, Sam Darnold was good. Yeah, he was good again. He was good once again. And then by like midseason, you're like, all right, this is just a good team. They're going to win 14 games. I don't know if the Colts have that kind of ceiling, but I think we're kind of going down that path with Daniel Jones. I know the Colts lost last week. I don't feel any differently about them, other than Daniel Jones turning it over on the first possession. Kind of like what I saw. You had the fluky A.D. Mitchell play. That's now 2 years in a row, by the way, that the Colts have had a game swing on that exact scenario. They had 10 men on the field for the Tutu Atwell touchdown. Can't let that happen. But, to me, not a huge concern going forward. This team, like I said, first in success rate, second in EPA, top 5 in both passing and rushing EPA on the season. Daniel Jones, I'm going to keep believing in him until he proves otherwise. When pressured last week, 10 of 11 for a touchdown, 6 for 8 with a touchdown when the Rams brought a blitz. You got Jonathan Taylor looking like maybe the best running back in football. You got a deep group of pass catchers. You have Tyler Warren, who's a star in the making. I have no faith in the Raiders right now. I know they got Genty going last week. That was a total slot fest. Actually, a really fun game to watch just from a comedy perspective. But the Raiders are not a good team. They lost a starting tackle, outside of Max Crosby, who does scare me quite a bit. Almost single-handedly, I thought wrecked that game for them last week. There's just not a lot of talent on this roster. Gino's making big mistakes every single week. So give me the Colts. And this is another game, John, where I would look at the over 47.5. I know maybe that's kind of asking a lot of the Vegas Raiders, but both of these teams love taking shots. Both are, high ADOT type of quarterbacks. Even if the Raiders do fall behind, Gino, he's going to be hucking that thing.
Yeah. I mean, look no further than that Washington game, a couple of weeks ago when it comes to the Raiders. So Gino's been super mistake prone. It's been disappointing. I kind of had a hope that the Raiders would claw their way into being respectable this year. That does not seem like it's going to be the case, unfortunately. But as exciting as it was to see Genty get it on track last week, the Colton Miller injury is very concerning to me. So I like this Indianapolis side a good bit. And yeah, I think Indianapolis can get us 30 points of the way there, and garbage time Raiders can get us the rest of the way as far as that total goes.
All right, on to our third and final games here, John. We have some overlap. We are both going to the same game here. You are looking at a side. I am looking at a total. And look, man, we haven't been getting in the mud enough on this show, and we are absolutely doing that here. Tennessee, Arizona. Where are you taking us first?
Yeah, we're in the mud. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. So everyone can be fully aware. It's the mud shovel play of the week. Shout out Stained.
Always.
Let's see. Thank you. So we've seen this number creep up. I think it was like 6.5 in favor of the Cardinals earlier this week. Now we're at 8.5. And I just think Yes, the Titans are horrendous. And if you look at their historical, like the run that they're on right now against the spread, it's insane. They're 2-5 against the spread in their last 17 games. Like impossibly bad. Impossibly bad. I'll give you that. But the Cardinals, I ain't trust them either. They've had 5 games in which they've been favored by 6.5 or more points, dating back to 2021. They're just 2-3 in those games. 2 of them have come against the Panthers. One of them, of course, against the Panthers earlier this year. So in a similar spot, I think I liked the Panthers earlier this year. Don't quote me on that. And obviously that didn't come in. But this Cardinals team, I don't think is very good. There's not a lot that really leads to me to believe that they're built to like crush even the bad teams like the Tennessee Titans. And I think just this trend is so strong for the Titans, and I know that it can still get worse, but I still am just a huge believer in Cam Ward. I know he's not getting a ton of help here, but I think that the Cardinals playing sloppy here in this spot, and the Titans just kind of hanging around and mucking it up enough in their own right is going to keep them within this number. So ultimately, it comes down to I don't trust the Cardinals with that many points against anybody. Anybody includes the Titans. Give me the Titans plus 8.5.
I'm looking at the total here, John, and I like the under. I was prepared to talk about the under 41.5. It moved to 42.5 for some reason this morning. So I like that even more, and I think this plays into your thinking as well. If you're looking for the Titans to cover this game, I think you want as few points as possible, and frankly, I think that's what we're going to get here. We'll start on the Tennessee side, I suppose. I'm going to throw a bunch of numbers at you to try to really lay out why I don't think we'll see points in this game. Tennessee, you look at the defensive numbers, pretty bad across the board, as you'd expect for an 0-4 team, but played a relatively tough schedule. Denver, the Rams, Indy, Houston. You got 2 really good offenses in there. You got one improving, which should be pretty good offense in Denver. And then, whatever you think of the Texans, Jeffrey Simmons to me is still maybe the best interior defensive tackle in the NFL. We all saw the play last week against Houston where the Texans, for whatever reason, just declined to block Jeffrey Simmons. He's still a game wrecker to me. That matters against an Arizona team that's been pretty shaky offensively. And Tennessee, again, it was Houston, but they held Houston to 6 points through 3 quarters. It really wasn't until late in that game when the Texans turned it on. Arizona has not scored more than 27 points in any game this season. That was the Carolina game where they got a fumble touchdown and an interception before they even ran an offensive play. So you're just gifted points right off the bat. Still only got to 27 on Carolina. Arizona 31st, or Kyler Murray, I should say, 31st in the NFL in average depth of target. It's not a team that is really capable of hitting big plays whatsoever. They're 26th in yards per play. They're a bad red zone team. They converted only 7 of 13 red zone trips so far this season. Your top 2 running backs are out this week. And, on the other side for Tennessee, not a whole lot you can say about this offense. 31st in success rate, 31st in EPA per play, 31st in EPA per pass. Cam Ward is barely completing 50% of his attempts on the season. They are 15 for 54 converting third downs. They've only been to the red zone 7 times in 4 games. And if you want to try to lob somewhat of a compliment at the Tennessee Titans, is they've been an okay, just like kind of bad team running the ball. And Cam Ward's mobility is part of that. But Arizona's defense has been excellent against the run, 6th in EPA per rush allowed. So I think this is a game that Arizona wins, but I think it's a classic Cardinals game. It's like a 24-14. Yeah, we don't really feel good about that. Kind of similar to what we saw against New Orleans in week 1.
Let's go. Let's knock it down a little bit. Let's go 20-13 in favor of the Cardinals. Let's both walk out happy.
There we go. All right. So in summation, John, both of us coming off of 2-1 weeks, by the way, in week 4, you are looking at the over in Jets Cowboys. You got the Bucks covering in Seattle and the Tennessee Titans covering in Arizona. I'm on the Chiefs to cover the 3 in Jacksonville, Colts minus 6.5 at home against the Raiders, in the under 42.5 in Tennessee, Arizona. One thing we always like to hit each week, John, the biggest stay away for you on this slate. What game do you want no part of?
I'm actually more excited for this part of the show than our best bets, because I think that this is the first week where it's truly a really difficult nut to crack. Like, I think that there are upwards of 5 games that would almost count as a stay away for me, but I'm going to hit you with 3 real quick.
Okay.
Dolphins, Panthers. You give anybody truth serum and tell me that they have a strong lean on this game. I would call you a liar and it wasn't real truth serum. No one knows. Nobody knows. Both those teams are so bad. It's in Carolina, so it's like harder to trust the Dolphins. But the Panthers are so bad. It's just you go back and forth. It's like a little game of pong in your mind, and it's awful. I think Ravens Texans is another one. Like that number has just moved so much. Cooper Rush has a pulse at least as a backup, but very different type of quarterback. So very different kind of offense that Baltimore is going to have to run. Baltimore defensively in complete shambles right now, but the Texans don't exactly clock to me as like this great team that's going to quote unquote take care of business. So that's a really tricky one for me to figure out. And then lastly, Broncos Eagles.
Yeah,
because I feel good about the Eagles and I feel like I'm lower than the public on the Broncos, but like I can't trust the Eagles even with a relatively small number, 4.5 at home. I think like the Eagles win that one by like 3. So I like the Broncos to cover, but it's not quite enough margin for me. So I could see that game going too many different directions. I'm staying away from Philly Broncos.
Yeah, there's some weird things going on with the Eagles right now where it's like when they cover, it doesn't feel like they should cover. When they don't cover, you're not surprised. Like, yeah, I totally agree on that one. I have Dolphins Panthers as not only the stay away of the week, the stay away of the year. Like you said, I don't know how it would be possible to have a confident handicap on that game. Saints Giants, kind of the same deal. Two bad teams there, two quarterbacks we don't really trust, and then the other one for me is Commanders Chargers. Kind of an alarming performance by LA last week. You're now without both tackles. Khalil Mack is out. Jaden Daniels comes back for the Commanders. Like Marcus Mariota, I thought looked pretty good in those two games. They're still scoring. They're hitting big plays on Atlanta. Jaden Daniels is a really difficult quarterback, I think, to prepare for. And I would not be surprised if the Commanders go on the road and win that game. But at the same time, long cross-country trip. Daniel's coming off an injury. It's one of those games where you could make a pretty compelling case on either side. All right, John, we are brought to you every single week by the good folks over at Circa. It is football season. The best place to catch the games is at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas, featuring the best pool in history, Stadium Swim. 3 levels, 6 pools, a 143-foot screen. Whether it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Stadium Swim is America's favorite place to watch football. No matter the size of your group, Stadium Swim is the place for you. From owner suites to cabanas, day beds to stadium booths, there's seating choices for everyone. And the best part, Stadium Swim, unlike most pools in Las Vegas, John, is open 365 days a year with the temperature-controlled pools. It's a great place to catch all the games all season long. Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Book your stay today at circalasvegas.com. So now is the time in the program, John, where we take a look at the Survivor options for this week. We'll take a little look back at week 4 in Circa Survivor. We had some carnage, not a total disaster week. Week 3, still the big carnage week so far. Had a little over 1,400 entries eliminated in week 4. So 12,404 entries still alive. 784 went out on the Chargers. 478 went out on the Green Bay Packers. A tie counts as a loss in most Survivor contests. 56 out on San Francisco, 38 on Minnesota, 15 on Vegas. 2 people picked Tennessee. 1 person picked Cincinnati. 1 person picked the Browns. And we had 24 no picks in week 4.
I wish I had just $1,000 to light on fire like that with some of those.
I would love to.
So I'm insulted by those people. Whoever you are, give me that money. Just give me that money instead.
Yeah. Keep in mind, by the way, that I did some digging on this because obviously, we had a ton of big time straight up upsets early on last season. By the end of week 3 last year in the Circus Survivor contest, over 95% of the field was already eliminated. So we are doing great collectively compared to last season. In terms of week 4, Buffalo was pretty easily the most popular pick. Almost 30% of entries were on the Bills. Houston, closer to 25%. And then Denver and Detroit, both in double digits as well. In the Grandissimo Circa contest, this is the $100,000 entry version of Survivor. 55 total entries remain. We only had 3 out last week, 2 on the Chargers, 1 on the Packers. Bills with 18 selections, Texans with 17 selections were your majority plays there. When we look at week 5, John, a few obvious spots here, right? I think Arizona and Indy widely projected to be the most popular plays.
They are. So, speaking to your point on the lack of chaos thus far, at least relative to last year, I was out by this time last year in a multi-strike survivor. So like I was just getting whipsawed left and right, like the Bengals game, the Bucks game against the Broncos. I mean, the list goes on. But this season kind of reminds me of, in Mario Party, the party game where you're jumping rope with fire, and everyone, it's starting real slow, so everyone is doing fine. It's going to start speeding up here, and we're going to start to see Koopas and Toads get eliminated left and right. This week we do have some good options, though. I stopped short. Like, I understand it, and the math says the Cardinals are a good pick, but like, again, they're just not in my circle of trust, and it feels weird to have a year in which, or at least like a month in which, the Cardinals have been great survivor picks. Between this one and the Panthers game, I'm going to avoid that one. I want to take. I want to save the Lions against the Bengals, but at the same time, they play the Chiefs next week. So if you're playing the save it or play it game, I think the Colts are the better play because they get the Cardinals or the better team to save because they get the Cardinals at home next week. So I'm going to fire away on the Lions. I know that my league doesn't do the Thanksgiving specific week. So I know that that's a totally different discussion to where it does kind of boil down more so to the Cards and the Colts. But for me, the Colts would be the play.
Yeah, I think it's Arizona, it's Indy, it's the Rams on Thursday night. They've swelled up to 8.5 point favorites against the Niners as we record this on Thursday afternoon. And then, like you said, Detroit as a 10.5 point favorite on the road, but still it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't mind burning Detroit here. Arizona, you're never going to feel great about that, but I think this is the optimal spot to use the Cardinals. Arizona, there's not really another game that you would circle right now, at least on that schedule, to be a better spot. This is probably the biggest favorite they'll be the rest of the way. They're at home. In Detroit, there's not really another obvious smash spot for the Lions until late November. They have a tough slate coming up these next 5 or 6 weeks. They get the Giants at home. I believe it's November 23rd, but that would be the next obvious spot to use Detroit. So I think burning the Lions here is okay. If you could avoid using the Rams, they play New Orleans in week 9, and that's the Rams coming out of their bye. That one's at home. And I don't mind using Indy here. I have 4 entries that are alive right now. I'm going to use at least one of them on the Colts. Colts also play Tennessee at home in week 8. So that could be another spot where you want to have the Colts available. All right, John, let's move on to the prop market for week 5. We both had a good week in terms of the props. Hit on Nico Collins, hit on Matthew Golden, Ashton Genty, some anytime touchdown scores as well. Debo, Hunter Henry, Romeo Dobbs. What do you like this week?
Well, got to give a shout out to our tech guys who created our props tool. That it's like, it lets you know the odds and the numbers at every single book that you play at. So you really kind of have a wide swath of options, and it kind of turns you on to some props that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise just looked at. You kind of just scroll by, but got a couple for you here from there, and then some just straight from the furnace upstairs. Give me Jalen Hurts under 28.5 pass attempts. I think that against this Broncos defense, they want to limit the amount that Hurts has to throw it and kind of keep things going on the ground. That secondary is really, really tough for Denver. And we've seen Hurts only hit this number once in his last 9 games. So give me the under 28.5 passing attempts. Give me Kyler Murray under 225 passing yards against Tennessee. It's been a minute since he's hit this consistently as well. I think that this is going to be an ugly game. And even with that bad Tennessee secondary, it just feels like this Arizona offense is so horizontally oriented. There's not those chunk plays in play here for me. So give me the under 225 for Kyler, 225.5 to be clear. Give me Jake Ferguson over 42.5 receiving yards at BetMGM. I like him to score a touchdown too. I'm not going to put it on the card, but that is floating out there. I think right around plus 150, but I like him getting involved with some yardage over 42.5. Give me Mark Andrews over 3.5 receptions, plus 130 at BetMGM. You can get it at over 2.5, but it's really juiced like minus 180. So for me, I like the over 3.5. I think Cooper Rush I think we can project a decent amount of dropbacks here for Cooper Rush. I think upward 30 pass attempts. And I know Zay Flowers is going to get looks too, but Andrews is like the proverbial safety blanket. I think that we could see like 5 catches for 25 yards type of day for Andrews. And then we need some spice, right? And who has spice more than Jackson Dart? Give me a Jackson Dart anytime touchdown. He's a dog. He's going to get in there with the turtleneck and the chain. It's going to look clean, especially in the dome down there in New Orleans. It's going to look awesome. He's going to be marching into the end zone and doing some sort of TikTok dance that I've never seen before.
I love it. I love it. All right, I'll run through what I have here on my card. David Montgomery, over 51.5 rushing yards in that Lions-Bengals game. Bengals just terrible defensively, terrible against the run. I expect Detroit. They're one of those teams that I'm comfortable taking a number like this with Detroit because you don't worry about them taking their foot off the gas. I think they'll be playing with a lead. I think we're going to see a lot of Montgomery throughout this game, especially in the second half. Struggled last week against Cleveland, but this is a just night and day type of matchup. Went over in the previous two games, had that huge game on just 12 carries against Baltimore. Might even throw a little sprinkle on 2+ touchdowns for David Montgomery. Could get that at 3-1. He is a Cincinnati native, I will remind you. So a little bit of a homecoming game for him. We like Breece Hall, over 23.5 receiving yards. No Braylon Allen. Dallas defense, as we've explicated, has been just terrible against the pass, both against receivers and running backs. We saw Josh Jacobs go for over 70 receiving yards on that defense last week. They're giving up, close to 60 receiving yards per game to running backs this season. Chase Brown, hate to pick on the guy. He's having a brutal year. Under 53.5 rushing yards. Just hasn't even come close to this number this year. Cincinnati, once again, will be playing from behind in this game. I don't see Chase Brown turning his season around against Detroit. Garrett Wilson, over 5.5 receptions. Number 2 in the NFL in team target share, behind only Puka Nacua. He's gone over this in 3 or 4 games so far. Again, targeting that Dallas defense. Give me Cam Scatterbu, over 17.5 carries, 25 carries for Scatterbu last week. I think that's the script, honestly, for the New York Giants. I think they want to be a run-heavy team as Jackson Dart gets his sea legs. Give me Chris Olave, over 54.5 receiving yards, top 5 in the NFL in team target share. Giants have given up the second most yards to wide receivers this season. And then I got 4 anytime touchdowns for us. Quinshon Judkins, plus 145. Breece Hall, minus 115. 5-1, by the way, for 2+ touchdowns for Breece Hall. Don't mind that. Kendre Miller, plus 350 in what promises to be a muddy Saints-Giants game. And I think Teteroa McMillan finds the end zone for the first time this season. I think we get points in that Miami-Carolina game. So give me McMillan plus 135.